Okay, so now that October's out of the way, I think it's time to start November off with some stuff, like maybe, some new stuff. And so I thought maybe I talk about a show that is actually very like, like very that everybody in my family, like has fond memories of me watching. And well, it's due to get a reboot this month, so yeah. So I'm gonna tell you guys about the first ever show I ever watched. And before you ask, no, it's not Sesame Street. I mean, come on, I already said it was a reboot, and Sesame Street's still going on for like, a few years, if you didn't already know. So yeah. So, why don't we talk about one of the most sweetest kid shows of all time that everyone loved seeing me watch. And you know what? When I look back on it, I think those memories were fun to watch too. Why don't I talk about Blue's Clues? So, this show was like probably one of my favorite things to watch growing up. I mean, if you guys remember, I made a story time video talking about, shows of, Nickelodeon and like, the shows I used to watch. And Blue's Clues was one of them. Yeah, it was actually the first. Because I think when we were all younger, we watched Nick Jr. And then I guess we saw Nickelodeon and started watching that too. So, yeah. And I bet, a lot of us also have fond memories of watching this show as well, even though some of us say that we prefer Steve over Joe. And here, I want to give you guys my personal opinion on this half. Okay, now here's the thing. When I was younger, I wasn't even born when Blue's Clues first came out. And well, finding out that the year, Steve was, left for college, that episode, which was his last appearance. Well, it said, well, according to some Instagram posts I found, about the episode, like the day it was posted was actually the same day the episode aired. Like, that thing Nickelodeon does on Instagram? Yeah. I remember seeing that day. I'm like, wait, it was 2002? So, have I been watching reruns of this show, throughout my childhood while all the new ones are with Joe? Yeah. And I actually caught it saying I wasn't even born. I was still a baby when this happened. Well, then again, I would have, maybe at age 2, at age 2, I did start watching Nickelodeon and Nick Jr., so, yeah. So, yeah, I obviously got into this show at age 2, and also, yeah. And here's another funny thing. So, I actually remember I actually remember telling my mom about the reboot, and she actually said to me, "Is Steve going to be in it?" And I said, "No, he won't. But he will be making an appearance in the first episode." If you guys, are on Twitter and you guys remembered, maybe you followed Nickelodeon on Twitter and you saw that clip they showed, like a little sneak peek that had, Steve and Joe in it and all that. That was actually really cool. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool. And pretty much, I actually also remember bringing up, well, and Joe is going to be in it too. And she was like, meh. Steve, yeah, you know what? Steve's the OG. I mean, come on. Well, and here's one thing you need to know. Because since I've been ranting on, I think it's time I brought it up. I just think Joe's okay, okay? I mean, sure, he probably wasn't as good as Steve, but come on. I mean, I mean, I grew up with some shows, you know. I grew up watching some new episodes with him in it all the time. But hey, just be happy I was able to watch some reruns, you know, with Steve in it. So, yes. Now, another thing I actually do want to share about this show. So, here's one thing. When I was younger, I actually lived near, me and my parents actually lived near a library that wasn't too far from our neighborhood, and sometimes I go there with my mom, and I don't know, I pick out a book and like a movie from like, you know, their DVD like selection. And actually one time I was looking through the DVD, like, you know, looking through like the DVD aisle, and I saw one movie that had Blue's Clues on it. I'm like, ooh! And so I picked it up, and in fact, the movie was actually called Blue's Musical Adventure. Yeah, I think I remember that because here's a funny thing. So there's this YouTuber, his name's Bob Show. If you guys don't know him, you might want to look him up. He does reviews on movies and comics. Well, and pretty much, well, I actually remember finding a video that was called Blue's Musical Adventure Review. I'm like, wow, that's interesting. I'm gonna watch this. And I tell ya, the memories came flowing back, I tell ya. So yeah, I obviously would watch it all the time, you know, a lot, until we had to return it. But it was still good, to say the least, so yeah. Okay, you know what? I didn't really say much, but there's one thing I do want to bring up. How I found out about the reboot. So, I think it was back in high school of 2016. Like, one day I was on a break, and, you know, I was, like, in my classroom, like, you know, scrolling through my phone on Instagram, and I happened to stumble upon a picture of Blue, but she wasn't in her original, like, you know, animation design. And yeah, to some of you who always thought Blue was a boy, Blue is a girl. Although I don't really know if I would have figured that out sooner or later. Although I think growing up, maybe I did, you know, always think Blue was a boy, and then I don't know, a year later when I heard them say her, I'm like, oh, Blue's a girl. Okay, yeah, I just accept it. I mean, I wouldn't have acted shocked if I found that out. But then again, I strangely do remember once meeting up with an old childhood friend, and she brought up that I think Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh was a boy. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird. Wait, or is that true? I'm not really sure. But hey. So, yeah, so Blue was like in this 3D animation. I'm like, what's this? And so I click on it, and it says that it was like Blue's Clues that they were announcing a Blue's Clues reboot. I'm like, oh my god, this is so cool! And so I comment saying, wow, this is cool. This was the first show of this was the first show I ever saw. I'm so happy it's coming back. Yeah, it was like really cool, I tell ya. And then, well, there were a bunch of random rumors, which obviously turned out to not be true a year later, that John Cena was going to be the host, I think. I mean, and I remember a lot of people were like, you know, I guess had like, you know, didn't really think of it as a good idea. Like, they thought it was weird and, I don't know, not a good choice. And here's a funny one. So I actually found another post on Instagram about it, and some people were saying, wow, the kids must be super confused of just a floating green striped shirt on the stage. And obviously they were joking, so yeah. But luckily that rumor turned out to be false, but yeah. But there is a little bit more to that part of the story. So crazy thing. I think I may have read this wrong a I guess later, because I don't know what the heck. But again, must have been just part of the rumor stuff. And I remember finding this post that said, the original host, Steve Wood, says that he would like to do it. I think that's what I remember hearing. And so I look, and pretty much, well, I swiped to see a video of Steve himself, like, mentioning, I guess, talking, like, saying, if John Cena can do it, then so can I. I'm like, okay. And then, you know, a year later, and then, you know, like a month later, well, my mom's wedding to my stepdad was, you know, had just happened, and it was already spring break. And, well, pretty much, well, on one morning, I spent the night with my grandmother at the hotel she was staying at, and I pretty much mentioned the reboot to her, and I mentioned, you know, that John Cena might host it, and that post I saw, you know, about Steve. Oh boy, wow. Which I believe was probably just something to make drama, probably just something for drama or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah. And then, you know, a few years later, I didn't hear anything else. But then, I guess, I can't really remember, maybe it was 2017, and Nickelodeon posted a video on their YouTube channel about Blue's Clues. I'm like, oh wow, more. I'm like, I thought they forgot, but I guess not. Well, I don't think they forgot. They just had to, like, you know, think of something. And it was just nice, you know, just to see everything there. And then, finally, I guess, in 2019, we finally got our promo, and turns out our host is not John Cena, but a guy who's apparently, well, a Broadway actor. And, well, I thought, you know, I don't think this Josh guy is half bad. Sure, he's not as good as Steve, or maybe he might be okay like Joe was, in my opinion. And of course, then, you know, after that, one day when I finally have Twitter, I see this little sneak peek from the Blue's Clues reboot, which is called Blue's Clues and You, and I look at it, and it looked really good. I'm like, holy cow! Like, and I was super shocked to see that. Like, I'm like, oh my God, Steve and Joe, what the heck? Like, oh, seriously, it blew my mind. Like, and I immediately just retweeted about it. So yeah. So now that I've covered it, here's one thing. Would you guys think that I would be watching this? Well, I mean, I was 2 years old when I first started watching it, so I don't know if I would be watching it now, because, you know, I'm kind of growing out of, like, you know, watching babies television, because when I look at those type of shows, I'm kind of like, ugh, this is too babyish. Like, I mean, like, when I look at shows from PBS Kids, I'm like, this is so babyish. Well, maybe except Sesame Street. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I look at people on the internet who are adults, and they say they still love Sesame Street to this day, and I don't blame them. I mean, I know it's a classic, so yeah, I could agree with them on that. And, you know, it was made by the same people who did the Muppets, so, and, you know, I am kind of into the Muppets, so, yeah. Nah, I don't know if I would watch this. I mean, but you know what? But you know what? I'm happy that today's generation might enjoy it, and, you know, maybe, you know, get to, like, you know, play Blue's Clues with them, if you know what I mean. Like, So, yes. So, I guess that's all I'm gonna say about this. Well, for now. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time.